Hello everyone, my name is Daniel, and I'm here to teach you from the PowerPoint that my group has made. So you want to write a long essay? Of course, this is by Daniel, Alex, and Gio. So this entire PowerPoint has been built off the rubric that's the College Board provides for AP World History Modern. So this is the newest rubric and is similar to, of course, English AP's rubric. So, of course, the first point that they're scoring you on is the thesis / the claim. And of course, you can either get 0 points or 1 point in this category. So in order to score a point, you must create a thesis or claim that responds to the prompt at hand. And to be eligible for this point, it has to be historically defensible, introduce a line of reasoning, and categories of the argument. One tip that they tell you in the scoring rubric is you do not overgeneralize this thing, and make sure it is specific enough to be in the context of the prompt and the documents or pieces they provide to you. Because they use the same rubric for all the written responses. And so, yeah, one of the steps is to make sure that when you're writing a thesis essentially shows what side are you on during the prompt. I have some examples from the College Board down here. Of course, the prompt that they're responding to is, in the 19th century, various political and social groups and industrial societies called for reforms. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which reform movements in the 19th century succeeded in bringing about political or social change in industrial society. So the first example I'm going to show you is the bare minimum, because it provides somewhat of a line of reasoning. In 19th century, reform movements were somewhat successful in bringing about political change in industrial societies because more people received the right to vote. Of course, from there you can see somewhat where they're going to be talking about. A bad one, or one that scores you no points, is something like this. Since the Great War was mostly a European conflict, it had almost no influence on European colonies or colonial peoples. Either that, this shows that they probably didn't understand the prompt, or they weren't trying. Some more theses. Some more thesis. Despite the sacrifice of colonial troops, the war did not change the basic political relationship between Europeans and their colonies. Europeans continue to view colonized peoples as inferior, and, except for a few small cultural changes, did not make any meaningful steps toward giving them greater rights or self-rule after 1918. So, this one is the best one because, of course, it shows you the line of reasoning, what they're going to be talking about, and it also starts to analyze within the prompt. It starts poking at that. We're going to take a slightly step lower with this one. The experience of the First World War greatly changed the relationship between Europeans and colonized peoples because the war showed that Europeans needed colonial troops to fight their wars. Of course, it was semi-decent. Of course, these two and then the first one right here would have gotten you 1 point in the category, so you would have gotten all the points, and this one would have not. So you make sure that it has to be defensible, introduce the line of reasoning, and the categories of the argument. What are you going to be talking about? And that's how you score 1 point on this thesis section. Next point, contextualization. So in order to earn a point, you must describe a broader historical context relevant to the prompt. In other words, you have to bring in an idea or event from your own intellect. That idea or event isn't mentioned in the prompt, but it can still be supported. And the College Board says that contextualization involves describing an accurate historical context for a specific historical development process explain how a relevant context influences a specific historical development or process, and use context to explain the relative historical significance of a specific historical development or process. And of course, an example would this be if the question was about post-classical East Asia, discussing post-classical Europe and Africa would be relevant if you're discussing what's going on globally. So essentially you have to make sure that you know what else is happening at the world at the same time with the event in mind or what they're asking you for. Alright, evidence. So essentially, in order to receive points in evidence, you must use evidence. And it depends on which criteria you complete. You get 1 point if you provide at least 2 pieces of evidence that are relevant to the topic, grants you only 1 evidence. 2 points if you provide at least 2 pieces of evidence and are both relevant to the topic. Oh. So this first section is essentially if you provide 2 pieces of evidence, but only one is like supporting the actual thing, your actual argument, and you get the full points if you make sure that both are relevant and support the argument at hand. So you got to back up your thesis, you know? You can't just throw in a claim and then not support it. Oh, and there's more. How to obtain a 2. So, example of potential prompt: the spread of religions or belief systems in the period between 600 BCE and 600 CE. Examples of evidence would be Emperor Constantine's policies helped spread Christianity across the Roman Empire. And of course the unacceptable piece that doesn't add new information but merely states an already stated concept is Christianity emerged and spread during the periods of this. See, there's the difference. This one doesn't go specific on how it spread. This one does show you because you know who helped spread it, because Emperor Constantine's across the Roman Empire. This is just says it just spread from that time period. Analysis and reasoning. Of course, you can get a max of 2 points in this category, but essentially, you have to. You get 1 point if you use historical reasoning to create an argument that addresses the prompt. 2 points if you demonstrate a complex understanding of the historical development that the prompt addresses and uses evidence to justify your argument so that it addresses the prompt. So you have to understand the complexities within what's happening. When you provide your evidence, you have to analyze your evidence and why and how that relates to the prompt. And you got to justify it. You can't just use historical reasoning to create it. You have to justify your argument. And so to obtain a 2, you just essentially the same prompt as before, but essentially essay to demonstrate awareness of historical complexity, such as constructing an argument that political or economic factors led not only to the spread but sometimes also the transformation of religious traditions through cultural syncretism. I don't know what that means, but this sounds big smart in my own words. Oh, so out of this entire thing, you can gain a total of 9 points, it seems like. What? No, that's 5 points. So you can get a total of 5 points in this. And so essentially, if you just keep in mind of what you're supposed to do and looking back at the rubric, you'll be able to get essentially a good score on this. Of course, my group is mostly familiar with Baker's class, so we've been writing a lot of essays, and we know somewhat what the similarities is between the English language essays and the AP World History essays. And of course, here's some of our sources. Of course, the College Board for AP World History, the rubric that's on their website. And then here's the page to English Language and Composition, because that's the one that we took last year as juniors. I couldn't find the 2018-2019 page because what is it? Since College Board did a revamp, they've also revamped all of it. So like the rubric is different in English language and English literature now. Same thing with modern. But of course, that's it for today. Hope you can tune in down the road and make sure you get that perfect score, or at least a good score. Or you just need at least a 3 to pass. Aim for the 3. If you can aim higher, go ahead. But make sure you at least understand how to write an essay. Alright, see you guys later.